The galaxy never took humans seriously. To the great empires that ruled the stars, Earth was nothing more than a young, noisy world with fragile ships and loud dreams. They had colonies on a few moons, small stations, and freighters that looked weak compared to alien war cruisers. Humans were traders, explorers, and sometimes troublemakers, but never a threat. At least, that was what everyone believed. That belief started to break the night the signal came. It was faint at first, a broken cry across the cold emptiness of deep space. The signal cut through the noise of background radiation, a desperate voice begging for help. At the Galactic Council, most ambassadors dismissed it. The source was traced to a dark corner of a ruined sector, a place nobody cared about. Another dying world, one alien delegate said with a bored shrug. Not our problem. Others agreed. To them, this was common. Entire civilizations had burned out before, and the galaxy kept moving forward. But humans listened differently. The signal reached Earth through old relay stations that were never meant to pick up long-range messages. Military command centers on Earth played the broken cry again and again, trying to decode it. It wasn't human. It was alien, terrified, pleading for rescue. The words were scrambled, but the fear was clear. Commanders on Earth gathered in silence. For years, humanity had been laughed at by the larger powers, told that building a strong warship was impossible for a species so new. Yet here was a chance, a reason, maybe even an excuse. Somewhere deep under the oceans, hidden in a shipyard the galaxy didn't know existed, a giant stirred. The signal spread faster than anyone expected. News channels across colonies played it on repeat. Ordinary people listened and felt a shiver in their bones. The fear in that alien voice was real. Something had gone wrong in the galaxy, something that made even ancient civilizations afraid. Nobody said it out loud, but everyone felt the same thought. If the signal was true, then the galaxy wasn't as safe as it pretended to be. Above Earth's orbit, alien scouts listened too. Small vessels from rival empires had been shadowing human space for years. They were ordered to watch and laugh, to make sure humanity stayed in its place. But when the signal reached Earth, the scouts picked up strange new readings. Something was moving near the edge of the system. Something large. Inside their command decks, alien officers frowned. Impossible. One hissed, staring at sensor echoes. No ship that big should exist in human space. Not without the Empire's knowing. But the readings did not vanish. In the council, debates grew heated. Ignore it, most delegates said. Humans can do nothing. If they try, they will only embarrass themselves. The chamber filled with laughter at Earth's expense. To the galaxy, humans were reckless children, always dreaming beyond their reach. But far from the council chambers, behind sealed walls of Earth's defense command, silence reigned. Generals and admirals stood around a holographic display, watching the signal loop over and over. Their faces were grim, not because of the aliens' plea, but because of what it meant. They all knew the truth. For decades, humanity had been building something in secret. While the galaxy mocked them, they worked in silence. While the council dismissed their engineers as fools, they dug shipyards into ice moons, asteroids, and the deep oceans of Earth itself. They mined their own system dry, gathered metals, tested weapons in shadows, and erased every trace from public records. Now, for the first time, the world would see the result. The signal was more than a cry for help. It was an opportunity. If they acted, humanity could step out of the shadows with proof that they were no longer the weakest voice in the galaxy. If they stayed silent, the galaxy would keep laughing forever. The choice was made quickly. Orders were signed. Crews were summoned in the dead of night. Across hidden bases, alarms blared softly, not for war, but for awakening. In a flooded chamber beneath the Atlantic Ocean, metal groaned. A massive structure, larger than any known battleship, shifted from its resting place. Lights burned to life along its hull, cutting through the darkness of the deep. Water rolled as engines tested themselves after long silence. The ship had no name yet spoken outside Earth's highest command, but within those steel walls, every soldier already knew it. The impossible warship. On its bridge, officers strapped in. Pilots touched controls they had trained on for years in secrecy. Technicians checked reactor cores that pulsed like giant hearts. The ship hummed with power, a beast waiting to breathe fire. In orbit, alien scouts caught the first faint energy spike. Their screens lit red with warnings. "Impossible!" one shouted again. But this time it was not disbelief, it was fear. They transmitted everything back to their empires, desperate to warn them. But warnings would not travel fast enough. The humans were moving. The signal still echoed across the galaxy. Broken, desperate, full of fear. But somewhere inside that sound, the humans had heard a challenge. And this time, their answer would not be words. This time, the answer would be steel, fire, and the birth of something the galaxy swore could never exist. The human warship was awakening. Above Earth, the night sky looked peaceful to those on the ground. Stars burned quietly, the moon drifted in silver light, and the oceans reflected calm waves. But just beyond the atmosphere, in the shadows of orbit, the truth was far from peaceful. Alien eyes were watching. For years, rival empires had stationed scout ships near the Sol system. Officially, they called them observers. But everyone knew the truth. They were spies. Small, fast vessels equipped with long-range scanners. Their only job was to monitor humanity's every move. Reports were sent daily to their home worlds. Reports filled with mocking words about human weakness, about ships that looked like toys, about fleets too small to matter. But tonight, those same scouts were silent. On one of the alien ships, a captain leaned over his sensor officer's shoulder, staring at the glowing readings. A ripple of energy had passed through the system, strong and unnatural. It didn't match any human engine signature they knew. It was bigger, deeper, older. "What is that?" the captain demanded, his voice sharp. The sensor officer shook his head, his eyes wide. "Not a freighter, not a station. It's a moving, slow, large, much larger than anything humans should be able to build." The crew whispered in their strange alien tongues. Fear crept into their voices. For decades, the council had laughed at the idea of a human warship. They said it was impossible, a fantasy, a dream of children. But now their scanners told a different story. The captain swallowed hard. "Send the report. Immediately." Engines hummed as encrypted signals shot across the void, rushing to reach distant stars. Yet deep inside, the captain knew the truth. By the time the empires received his message, it might already be too late. On Earth, the warship was rising. Inside the hidden ocean base, the sea boiled as titanic engines came to life. Water churned and roared as the massive hull pushed upward. Towers of spray rose to the surface as the beast broke free. Then, in the dead of night, fishermen off the coast saw something that froze their blood. A shadow rose from the depths, blacker than the sky itself, blocking out the moon. They whispered prayers, certain they were witnessing a monster of the deep. But this was no sea creature. It was a machine, human-made, built in silence and secrecy for years. The ship's hull gleamed with fresh armor, still wet from the ocean. Lights burned along its edges like rows of stars. Slowly, the warship climbed higher, engines growling as they lifted it skyward. For the first time, humanity's impossible creation touched the heavens. In orbit, the alien scouts watched in horror. Their scanners screamed with warnings, calculating the ship size. It was not a destroyer. It was not a cruiser. It was something beyond classification. One officer whispered, "It's larger than our dreadnoughts." Another corrected in a trembling voice, "Not just larger, denser. Look at the readings. The armor plating. It's thicker than anything we've seen. How did humans even mine that much metal without anyone noticing?" The captain could not answer. His throat was dry, his mind racing. All he could do was stare as the massive silhouette rose into orbit, blotting out the stars. "This is impossible," he muttered. "Impossible." But the shadow of the warship said otherwise. Inside the ship, the bridge hummed with life. Officers sat at their stations, eyes locked on glowing screens. Pilots tested thrusters, watching how the massive craft responded. Engineers reported reactor levels steady, shields powering, weapons armed but silent. The admiral in command stood tall at the center, hands clasped behind his back. His eyes were cold, focused, unblinking. He had trained for this moment his entire life. The galaxy believed his ship could not exist, but here it was, alive and breathing, ready for war. He gave a single order: maintain silence. Let them watch. No weapons fired. No threats were spoken. The ship simply floated in orbit, a silent monster against the stars. But its presence alone was louder than any gunfire. The alien scouts panicked. They knew what this meant. If humans had one warship like this, there could be more. If this was only a test, then the balance of power across the galaxy had just shattered. Far away, in the Galactic Council, diplomats laughed over late-night drinks. Humans? They're probably arguing over trade again. One delegate joked. Another added, the signal frightened them. Now they'll pretend to be brave, but we all know they can't fight. But outside their chambers, whispers began to spread. Rumors moved faster than official reports. Traders returning from Sol spoke of strange energy readings. Smugglers swore they had seen a black shadow moving in the system. Fear slipped into the cracks of confidence. And then came the first scout transmission. Across the Council's secure channels, the message played: human warship detected. Massive class. Unknown technology. Impossible readings. Request immediate reinforcements. The chamber fell silent. Laughter died on alien lips. Eyes widened. For the first time in history, the words human warship had been spoken not as a joke, but as a warning. In orbit, the scouts debated what to do. One argued for retreat. We must survive to warn the fleet. If we stay, we die. Another snarled that they had to test the humans, probe their defenses, discover weaknesses. But deep down, none of them truly believed the humans would be weak anymore. Their arguments ended when the human warship moved. Slowly, gracefully, the massive ship turned its nose toward the alien scouts. No weapons fired, no shields flared. But every sensor on those alien ships screamed in alarm as the warship locked its targeting systems. The alien crews froze. To be targeted by something that size was like standing in the shadow of a mountain about to fall. On the human bridge, the admiral gave no order to fire. He only whispered, "Let them fear." The alien ships broke formation, scattering like frightened birds. Engines roared as they fled into the dark, desperate to escape. None dared to linger. None dared to challenge. The humans had not fired a single shot, and already the galaxy trembled. That night, Earth's skies looked the same as always. Families on the ground slept peacefully, unaware of what had risen above them. Children dreamed under the stars, never knowing that history had changed. But in orbit, in the cold silence where the human warship now stood guard, the future had already begun. The galaxy said it was impossible. The empires said humans would never rise. And yet here it was, the shadow of a warship so powerful it made even ancient civilizations tremble. The impossible was now orbiting Earth. And the galaxy would never laugh again. The galaxy had called it a joke for generations. They said humans were too small, too fragile, too young to stand against the old powers. They said humanity's ships were weak, their fleets laughable, their ambitions foolish. For years, the Council laughed every time a human diplomat spoke about defense or sovereignty. Impossible, the empires said. Humans will never build a true warship. But now the impossible hung in the void, and the laughter had gone silent. Alien scouts scattered from Earth's orbit, their small vessels burning every ounce of fuel to escape. Their engines left white trails across the darkness, like panicked streaks of light fleeing a storm. But no matter how fast they ran, they knew they could never outrun what they had seen. Behind them, the human warship drifted silently, enormous, patient, terrifying. Its black hull swallowed the stars. Its engines glowed like suns, steady and calm. To the fleeing scouts, it looked less like a ship and more like a living shadow, a titan born from steel. The Council received their warnings only hours later. Frantic voices filled the chamber. Confirmed sighting, impossible tonnage, unknown design, reactor output beyond Dreadnought class. Each report was more unbelievable than the last. The chamber erupted with noise. Some shouted that it was a trick, a lie, human propaganda. Others swore the scans were authentic. Ambassadors who once laughed at humans now argued in fear. "Deploy a fleet immediately," one demanded. "No, wait, we must confirm," another shouted. "Impossible. It cannot be real." But deep down they all felt the truth. The human warship was not a rumor. It was real. In the hidden command center beneath Earth's surface, generals and admirals stood in silence, watching as the ship climbed higher into space. For years, they had carried this secret like a heavy stone. Now, finally, the weight was lifted. The galaxy knew. On the warship's bridge, the crew waited for their first true orders. Every console glowed, every reactor thrummed, every weapon hummed like a sleeping beast. But still, the admiral kept his hands behind his back, his face calm. He knew the galaxy was watching. He knew their eyes were wide with fear, and he knew the value of silence. Sometimes silence was louder than fire. "Hold position," he said. The order was simple. The ship did not move. It did not fire. It simply existed, and that alone was enough to shake the stars. But the galaxy was not ready to accept silence. From the edge of Sol System, a small fleet appeared. Alien cruisers belonging to one of the empires, bristling with weapons. Their hulls painted with the banners of ancient power. They had not come to talk. They had come to crush the impossible before it grew. Their commander broadcast his message across open channels. His voice was sharp, mocking, filled with arrogance. "Human vessel, power down immediately. You are in violation of Council edicts. Surrender your ship, or be destroyed." On the human bridge, officers looked to the admiral. They waited, tense, ready to act. But the admiral only stared at the transmission with cold eyes. He let the alien commander speak. He let him laugh. He let him call the warship an abomination, a mistake, a fragile toy. And when the alien finished, the admiral gave his order. "Bring us about." Slowly, with a grace that should have been impossible for its size, the human warship turned. Its hull rotated until its forward guns aligned with the alien fleet. The movement alone sent shockwaves across scanners. Every alien ship locked weapons in response. The human admiral gave no grand speech, no threats, no promises. His voice was steady, almost quiet. "Target the lead ship. Fire one round." The galaxy saw the first reveal. The warship's massive rail cannon charged, its coils glowing white-hot with energy. For a heartbeat, the void seemed to hold its breath. Then came the shot. A spear of metal, accelerated to impossible speed, tore through space. It struck the alien cruiser before their shields could fully harden. The ship split apart in a silent explosion, fire and debris scattering into the void. One shot, one kill. The alien fleet froze. Their commanders screamed in disbelief. Their officers panicked. Their strongest shields had shattered like glass. Their war doctrine, built over centuries, had failed in a single second. On the human bridge, the admiral did not smile. He did not cheer. He simply gave another order. "Hold fire." The warship's guns went silent again. But silence was no comfort anymore. Silence now meant waiting for the next death. Across the galaxy, the reaction was chaos. Transmission of the battle spread like wildfire. Fleets scrambled. Governments panicked. Rulers shouted at each other across council chambers. The word spread faster than light itself. The humans fired. The humans killed. The humans built the impossible. On worlds where humans were mocked, where their embassies had been ignored, silence replaced laughter. Aliens stared at news screens, unable to believe their eyes. Children who had been told humans were weak now asked their parents the same question. If they could build that, what else are they hiding? The alien fleet that had come to crush Earth made its choice. Some captains screamed for retreat. Others demanded to fight. Pride battled fear. Finally, they opened fire. Beams of plasma, streams of missiles, arcs of energy. All lit the darkness at once. A storm of fire aimed at the single warship. Inside the human ship, alarms rang, shields flared, hull plating groaned. The bridge trembled as the first volley struck. But the ship held. Its shields glowed, bending the storm aside. Its armor absorbed what broke through. The officers waited for the admiral's command. His face was still calm. He let the storm rage. He let the aliens believe, for a few precious moments, that they still had power. Then, when the bridge cleared of light, he gave his answer. Return fire. Controlled volley. No survivors. The human warship unleashed its fury. Rail cannons thundered. Missiles streaked. Energy beams cut through alien armor. One by one, the cruisers died. Their shields cracked. Their hulls split. Their crews screamed into the void. The impossible was no longer theory. It was fire, death, and steel. Within minutes, the fleet was gone. Silence returned to orbit. The warship drifted again, patient and cold, surrounded by the wreckage of those who had doubted it. On the council worlds, the truth could no longer be denied. The impossible had been revealed. Humanity had built a ship that dwarfed empires. They had fired, and no one had been able to stand against them. In their chambers, rulers whispered the words they had once mocked. Human warship. The sound of it was enough to send shivers through ancient bones. And deep in the void, the humans waited. They had revealed only the beginning. The galaxy had just witnessed the first glimpse of what Earth had become. And it would never be the same again. The wreckage of the alien fleet still drifted in orbit. Glowing embers scattered across the black. Broken hulls spun silently, torn by weapons no one believed humans could build. The signal had gone out across the stars, faster than light. Humans had revealed their warship, and it was not weak. It was a predator among prey. But the galaxy was not ready to accept this new truth. Pride and fear burned together. For the old empires, it was unthinkable to admit that Earth, a young, loud, fragile world, had struck down their cruisers in moments. They answered the only way empires knew how. They sent more ships. From deep space, hyperspace lanes tore open. Energy storms flared as dozens of alien warships dropped into Sol. The void filled with metal and firepower, fleets larger than anything Earth had faced before. Cruisers, destroyers, battleships, all bristling with weapons, their hulls painted with the banners of ancient houses. The message was clear: crush the humans before the galaxy lost its balance. On the human warship's bridge, the crew watched the enemy arrive. Warning lights painted their consoles red. Sensors counted ship after ship until the numbers were almost meaningless. The aliens had come with overwhelming force, a wall of fire meant to erase Earth's challenge before it spread. The young officers shifted nervously, some swallowing hard, some tightening their grips on their chairs. For all their training, for all their secrecy, this was the moment no one could truly prepare for. But the admiral stood tall, his hands still behind his back, his voice steady as stone. They believe numbers will save them, he said quietly. They are wrong. Power is not in numbers. Power is in resolve. His eyes swept across the bridge. Ready weapons. The alien commander's voice cut across the void, arrogant and cold. Human vessel, you have made your point. You have revealed your toy. Now you will surrender it or be annihilated. No answer came from the warship. The alien commander laughed bitterly. Then so be it. Fire. The void lit up with fury. Missiles streaked forward in glowing swarms. Plasma beams carved through the darkness, green and violet arcs of destruction. Rail slugs screamed across space like invisible hammers. Dozens of ships opened fire at once, unleashing a storm meant to erase the impossible in one terrible strike. The human warship vanished behind the light. For seconds that felt like hours, the galaxy held its breath. From distant observation posts, from hidden council feeds, from alien scouts trembling in their ships, everyone watched, waiting to see the humans torn apart. But when the fire cleared, the warship still stood. Shields glowed bright, battered but unbroken. Armor plating steamed, but the hull was intact. The giant did not fall. Instead, it moved. The admiral gave his order without raising his voice. Engage! The human warship came alive. Rail cannons thundered, each round tearing through cruisers as if they were paper. Missiles streaked outward in waves, their engines howling, weaving between enemy fire before finding their marks. Entire alien destroyers exploded in silence, their crews erased in bursts of light. Energy beams cut across the void, slicing ships in half, melting armor into slag. Fighter squadrons launched from hidden bays, swarming around the giants like angry hornets, stabbing with precision strikes. Every shot from the warship was deliberate. Every strike was a kill. The aliens answered with more fire, desperate and wild. Their weapons poured into the warship's shields, hammering it again and again. But no matter how hard they struck, the ship held. It was too thick, too strong, too advanced for their old tactics. On the bridge of an alien battleship, panic spread like fire. They're cutting through us. Our weapons aren't piercing. Shields collapsing. Another cruiser lost. The alien commander roared for his fleet to press on. Pride would not allow retreat. We are the Empire. They are nothing. Overwhelm them. But the truth was written in fire. Ship after ship burned. What should have been an easy victory was turning into slaughter. Inside the human warship, the crew moved with deadly precision. Alarms flashed, but discipline held. Engineers rerouted power. Pilots adjusted firing arcs. Gunners whispered target locks before unleashing devastation. For them, this was not chaos. This was the moment they had been trained for since the ship was a secret dream. The admiral remained still, his voice calm as he gave each order. To his crew, his steadiness was an anchor. To the galaxy, it was a warning. Then the warship revealed its true weapon. A section of the hull opened, massive doors sliding apart. Energy built deep inside the ship, humming louder and louder, until the void itself seemed to tremble. Alien sensors screamed as they picked up readings beyond anything in their databases. The admiral gave a single word. Fire! A lance of white energy erupted from the warship, wider than a city, brighter than a sun. It cut across the void, striking through the heart of the alien formation. Ships disintegrated instantly, their hulls melting into nothing, their crews turned to ash. One shot, 5 ships gone. The galaxy watched in horror. The human warship had not only survived, it had changed the rules of war. The battle turned. Aliens screamed for retreat, but it was too late. The humans pressed forward, the warship carving a path through fleets older than Earth itself. Cruisers shattered, battleships exploded, destroyers vanished. Wreckage drifted everywhere, filling the void with broken banners of ancient power. The impossible was no longer a rumor. It was victory, clear and undeniable. When the last alien ship fled, silence returned. The battlefield was littered with fire and ruin, a graveyard of ships that once mocked humanity. On the bridge of the warship, the crew sat in stunned silence. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had stood, and the galaxy had seen it. The admiral finally spoke. His voice was quiet, but every soul on the ship heard the weight of his words. This was only the beginning. Across the galaxy, the battle's recordings spread. Empires watched in disbelief as their fleets burned. Council halls shook with fear. The phrase that once made them laugh now made their voices tremble. The human warship. And in the cold dark of space, the impossible machine stood alone, its guns still smoking, its armor scarred but unbroken. The galaxy had seen fire in the void, and it knew humanity would never be mocked again. The battlefield around Sol had turned into a graveyard. Broken alien hulls drifted silently, glowing from fires that would never burn out. Twisted metal and shattered banners floated like ghosts of empires that once mocked humanity. The human warship did not chase the fleeing survivors. It only stood guard, silent and watchful, as if daring the galaxy to try again. But the galaxy no longer dared. News of the battle spread faster than light. In the council chambers, ambassadors sat in stunned silence as recordings played across the hall. Images of the human warship filled the chamber. Black and massive, guns flashing, shields glowing, enemies falling one by one. The final blow, that white beam of energy that had erased 5 ships in a single strike, burned itself into every memory. No one laughed this time. Whispers filled the air. They said it was impossible. No empire has ever built something that size. Where did humans find the resources? Or the knowledge? The laughter that once greeted every mention of human power had turned into silence. And silence was far worse. In the streets of alien capitals, fear spread like fire. Merchants whispered about a new age, one where humans might no longer trade as equals, but rule as masters. Soldiers murmured nervously in barracks, wondering if their fleets could ever stand against such a monster. Even children asked questions their parents could not answer. If humans hid this, what else are they hiding? The empires tried to control the panic, but the more they denied, the more the fear grew. Every citizen had seen the same recordings. Every world now knew the truth. The impossible had become real. In private chambers, rulers argued bitterly. Some demanded peace talks immediately. Others shouted that peace would be weakness. The proudest voices called for another attack. They cannot have more than one emperor insisted. It must be their only warship. If we strike again, together we can crush it. But others shook their heads in dread. And if they have more? The room fell silent at that thought. On the human warship, the crew worked quietly. Engineers repaired scorched hull plating, replaced damaged shielding nodes, and reloaded missile bays. The crew had fought hard, but the ship had survived with strength to spare. From his command chair, the admiral read intercepted transmissions. He saw the panic, the scrambling, the arguments. His lips curved slightly, not in joy, but in certainty. "The galaxy has finally learned to fear us," he said softly. In hidden bases across Earth and its colonies, more alarms stirred. Long dormant hangars opened, revealing more than just one monster. Massive silhouettes shifted in darkness, each one waiting for its turn. The admiral had been right. The ship in orbit was not the only one. Across the stars, fear shaped strange new alliances. Empires that once despised each other met in secret, whispering like thieves. They planned desperate coalitions, fleets of fleets, armies of armies, anything to stop what had risen on Earth. But not all empires thought of war. Some thought of surrender. In back rooms, envoys drafted treaties begging for peace. Some offered technology, others territory, others slaves, anything to keep the humans from pointing their warship in their direction. But none of them knew what humans truly wanted. And that was the greatest fear of all. The signal that started everything still echoed across space. The broken cry from a ruined sector, a desperate voice begging for help, had sparked the impossible. Now every empire replayed that message and wondered, did the humans build their warship only to answer the signal? Or had they been waiting for an excuse? The question haunted them and no answer came. On one alien world, a council of generals gathered around a great table. Their voices shook as they reviewed battle data. Their shields are beyond calculation. Their weapons pierce dreadnought armor. Their energy beam, it is like nothing we've ever seen. A weapon to erase fleets. One general finally slammed his fist against the table. This is no warship. It is a declaration. The humans are telling us all. The age of weakness is over. The others did not argue. They could not. Even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, fear spread. Pirates who once hunted human trade routes vanished overnight, leaving their dens empty. Smugglers who mocked human colonies suddenly turned into messengers, carrying words of caution instead of threats. Even slave markets where human prisoners once stood in chains fell silent. No one wanted to anger a species that had built the impossible. But fear had another face. On worlds oppressed by the old empires, whispers spread in secret. Species long enslaved or ignored began to hope. If humans could rise, if humans could challenge the untouchable empires, maybe others could too. In dark alleys and broken cities, the warship's name was spoken not with fear, but with reverence. The humans fight back. One slave whispered to another. They built what no one else could. Maybe Maybe they can free us too. The empires feared humanity's weapons. The weak hoped for humanity's fire. Back on Earth, ordinary people watched the news with wide eyes. Families gathered around screens as they saw their warship in orbit, saw it tear through fleets that had once terrified them. Pride swelled, but so did unease. They knew the galaxy would not stay quiet for long. In the silence of his quarters, the admiral reviewed casualty lists. Human soldiers had died in the battle. He read every name, memorized every face. The galaxy might fear humanity, but the price of that fear was written in blood. He closed the file and whispered to himself, "The war has already begun." And so the fear spread. It spread through the empires, through the council, through markets and homes, through soldiers and rulers. It spread in whispers and shouts, in terror and in hope. Everywhere, across every world, a single truth had burned into the galaxy. The humans built the impossible. The humans have a warship. And the question that followed was even more terrifying. What will they do with it next? The galaxy had grown quiet, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of fear. Fleets that once moved boldly across the stars now stayed close to home. Trade routes were half empty, convoys sailed with caution, and the once proud empires spoke in whispers. Every action, every decision, carried the shadow of a single truth: humanity had changed the rules. The warship above Earth had not moved for weeks. It lingered like a black mountain in orbit, silent and patient, while the galaxy trembled. But within its armored walls, preparations were being made. The admiral stood on the command bridge, watching stars shift across the glass of the main display. His voice was calm, but his crew felt the weight in his words. "It is time," he said. "The galaxy believes we built only one warship. They believe it was a miracle. They will learn the truth." At his signal, long-buried hangars on Earth and its colonies opened. Across Mars, Titan, Luna, and the far colonies of Proxima, massive structures rose. From their shadows came more warships, sisters of the Black Titan already in orbit. One by one, they lit their engines, glowing like newborn stars. Their armored hulls gleamed silver and black. Their weapons arrays powered up, humming with lethal energy. The impossible had not been a single ship. It was a fleet. In the council chambers, chaos exploded. Reports crashed through the networks. Scouts who dared peek at Soul's Edge sent images of colossal shapes moving out of the shadows. At first, the council thought they were tricks, decoys, or projections. But the truth became undeniable. Not one warship. Not two. Not three. More. Many more. An Empire commander rose to his feet in rage. "They lied. They hid this. If we do not unite now, the humans will march across us all." But the room was filled not with rage alone. There was terror, despair, and the bitter taste of regret. For decades, they had mocked the humans, treated them as weak, dismissed their small colonies, their small fleets. Now the price of arrogance was before them. The march began. The fleet of human warships moved slowly but with purpose, leaving Soul behind like gods descending from their throne. Civilian ships fled from their path. Merchant lanes went dark as word spread. "Do not cross the humans." But the humans did not fire. They did not destroy. They simply advanced step by step, system by system, as if to remind the galaxy that their strength was real. In one sector, an Empire fleet dared to test them. 20 ships, armed with plasma and railguns, intercepted a single human warship at the border of their territory. The humans did not slow. The alien fleet opened fire, energy bolts lighting the void. Shields on the human vessel flared, but the ship did not falter. Then the reply came, one beam, silent and blinding, cut through the alien flagship. In seconds, the rest of the fleet broke apart, burning and broken. The warship did not even pause. It marched on. On oppressed worlds, hope began to stir. Slaves whispered that the humans might come, that the march might bring freedom. Rebellions sparked in hidden corners, emboldened by the sight of alien masters trembling. For the first time in centuries, the powerful were afraid, and the weak began to dream. The galaxy was changing, not by battles alone, but by the shadow of what the warships meant. Inside his command chamber, the admiral watched reports of fear and chaos spread like wildfire. He said nothing at first, his face a mask of iron. Finally, he spoke to his officers. Let them fear. Let them wonder. Every step we take is not just for Earth, but for every world that has suffered under the arrogance of empires. We do not march for conquest. We march so they can never forget. Humanity will never kneel again. His words carried across the ship, through comms, into the hearts of every crew member. And in silence, the warship fleet moved onward. The march did not go unanswered. Coalitions formed in panic. Empires that once despised each other now trained their fleets together. Hidden weapons were rushed into production. Armies were raised in secret. Every ruler knew one truth. If the humans chose to strike, they could not be stopped by one empire alone. Still, no one dared attack again. The memory of broken fleets still floated in the void, a warning carved into space itself. But fear had a dangerous edge. On one council world, an assassination attempt struck a human envoy. Blaster fire lit the hull, shouts rang out, and for a moment the fragile illusion of diplomacy collapsed. The envoy survived, but the message was clear. Not all were willing to bow to fear. Some would strike from the shadows. When the news reached the admiral, his gaze hardened. He turned to the stars ahead and whispered, "Then they will learn what it means to provoke us." The warship fleet's engines ignited brighter, burning blue against the black of space. Their course shifted not toward home, but deeper into the galactic core. Their destination was not announced. Their purpose was not explained. But everyone who watched knew. Humanity was not standing still. The march was only beginning. On alien worlds, ordinary people looked up at their skies, wondering when the black shapes would appear. Some prayed for safety, some prayed for freedom, and some prayed never to see the humans at all. But across every empire, one truth had settled into every heart, ruler and citizen alike. The humans had built the impossible. The humans were marching, and nothing could stop them,